Hello, this is Spellsquire's MTG, and today I have a deck tech on my Osgir, the Reconstructor Commander deck. This deck is all about bringing artifacts in and out the graveyard, using our commander to generate lots of value, making token copies of them, and this generates a very value-filled deck, and it often gets where it wants, either by winning with a combo or swinging out and winning. So our commander is a 2 red and a white for a 4/4 legendary creature, Giant Artificer. Vigilance, 1, sacrifice an artifact. Target creature you control gets +2/+0 until end of turn. And then it's got X, and tap it. Exile an artifact card with mana value X from your graveyard, and create 2 tokens that are copies of the exile card. Activate this ability only as a sorcery. So this allows us to sacrifice stuff, and then bring it back as token copies. So we've got our ramp spells, first of all. So Soul Ring, 1 mana, taps for 2, classic. Then we have Talisman of Conviction and Arcane Signet, which tap for red and white in one or another way. We've got Mind Stone and Thought Vessel. These both tap for a colourless. Thought Vessel goes up to no maximum hand size, and Mind Stone we can tap it, sacrifice it, and draw a card. But next we've got some land ramp. We've got Knight of the White Orchid. When it enters, if your opponent controls more lands than you, they often do, you get a Plains card and put it on the battlefield tapped, or bap it on the battlefield and shuffle your library. Archaeomancer's Map, 2 and a white, when it enters, get 2 Plains, and whenever land enters battlefield and opponent's control, if that player controls more lands than you, you get to put a land from your card onto the battlefield. Very good ramp there in the pre-con, so a lot of people have it. And then Solemn Simulacrum, 4 mana, 2/2. When it enters search library for a basic land card, when it dies you draw a card. So with this we can copy it, get loads and loads of value out of it. And it's just an incredibly good card. Next up you have Arcane Signet, taps for white or red. Basalt Monolith, this is part of a combo I'll show you later. It's 3 mana, taps for 3, 3 untap, and is an untapped during the untapped step. Then we have Dockside Extortionist, one of the best ramp cards in this deck. 2 mana, you can get upwards of 5 or 6 mana towards the end of the game and get amazing value. It makes X treasure tokens for X's number of artifacts and enchantments your opponents control. Very, very good card there. Next, so how are we going to, once we've ramped, how are we going to do what we want? So first up, Ignite the Future. These are all card draw spells. This exiles top 3 cards of our library, and we can play them until the end of our next turn. And if it's cast from our graveyard, we can pay the cards without paying their mana costs. 4 mana, draw 3 is fine. Jessica's Will, 3 mana, draw 3. However, if we do control our commander, we often do, we get red for each card in the target opponent's hand. So this can get us 6 mana at a time and draw us 3 cards. Very, very powerful card. Combustible Gear Hulk, 6 mana, first strike. When it enters, target opponent may have you draw 3 cards. Often opponents are going to choose the other option, so they don't always get to draw 3. However, if that player doesn't, we mill 3 cards, and then deals damage equal to that player equals the total mana value of those cards. So a lot of our curve is very high, because you've got a lot of stuff you can recur for cheaper. So this is going to deal a lot more damage than a normal deck. Trading Post, 4 mana, just a very general value card. We're going to want to use the 1, discard a card you gain 4 life occasionally. The better ones are sacrifice a creature, return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. So we're going to have a lot of disposable tokens with this deck, or well, not a lot, but quite a few. And we get to recur some artifacts, and we can pay 1, sacrifice an artifact, draw a card, which is what you mainly want to be doing. Outpost Siege, 4 mana. We're going to want to be choosing Khans in this deck. Dragons occasionally, but Khans is where you want to be. Being if your upkeep, exile top card of your library until end turn, you can play that card. So it's just a bit of card draw. Then we have 3 cards, which, when they enter, they draw us cards. Ichor Wellspring gives us one when it goes to the graveyard. Spare Supplies, we can tap it and draw a card. And Golden Egg, we can sacrifice it to gain life, or filter mana if you want to. But both of those with Osgir are incredibly good, because it's just 2 mana to draw 2 cards. Next up we have our wheels. Ruin Grind is the best one. 6 mana, 7/4. When it dies, each player may discard their hand and draw 7 cards, and it's got Menace. So we can recur this over and over again to filter through our deck to find the cards you want. Magus the Wheel, 3 mana, and then you tap 2, sacrifice it, each player discards their hand and draws 7 cards. Again, it fills up a hand. Wheel of Misfortune does the same, except everyone chooses a number, and the player with the lowest number doesn't get to wheel, and everyone takes damage equals the number. Very complicated card, but you'll eventually get to understand it if it gets played. Next up, we have our Sacrifice Outlets. This is one of the best cards in our deck, Clan Ironworks. A bit on the expensive side now. There isn't really a budget alternative, but you can probably find something which does sacrifice artifacts to itself. Sacrifice an artifact, add 2 colours to your mana pool. With this, we can sacrifice most of our board to cast large X spells, and there's some infinite combos with it. However, they are quite complicated, so there's not really much point trying to... I'll show you the combo later on. Slowbag Goblin Tinkerer, 2 mana, 1/2, sacrifice an artifact. Target artifact becomes indestructible in turn. This, get protection, and just generally a very good card. Called Drofa Forge Master. Oops. It's 5 mana, 3/5, sacrifice 3 artifacts, search away for an artifact card and put it on the battlefield, and then shuffle a library. It's just a tutor to find combo pieces. Clan works as well. Audacious Reshaper, 3 mana, 3/3, sacrifice an artifact, so you can get rid of an irrelevant artifact, like a treasure token or something if you don't need it. And we reveal cards on the top of your library until you reveal an artifact card. Put that card onto the battlefield and rest on the bottom of your library in a random order, and it deals damage equal to the number of cards revealed this way to us. This, we get rid of not so helpful artifacts, and we find a better one. Next up, you have our Recursion Spells. We have quite a few of these, because this deck wants to be bringing artifacts out of our graveyard constantly. First one, 1 red Goblin Welder. It's very overworded, but the way they wanted it to work, it does work for it. So choose target artifact player controls and target artifact card in that player's graveyard. Let's say the Basalt Monolith is on our graveyard and Clan Ironworks on the battlefield. I'll show you what it does because it's easy in explaining it. We tap the Goblin Welder and basically just swap them around, is all it does. Very, very good card there, because we can get rid of irrelevant artifacts and bring back huge things early on in the game. And the fact it costs 1 red is brilliant. Sun Titan, 6 mana, 6/6 Vigilance. When enters, return target permanent card with a CMC 3 or less from your graveyard to battlefield. This we can get back basically anything. Dockside Extortionist, Goblin Welder, Basalt Monolith. Very flexible card there. Trash for Treasure. It also does it when we attack as well, so you can repeatedly bring stuff back. Trash for Treasure, 3 mana. Additional cost of this spell, sacrifice an artifact. Return target artifact for card from graveyard to battlefield, so it's just Goblin Welder put on a sorcery. Duretti. This deck is part of my Duretti deck, but it's put into here. This was within the precon as well. Most of the cards in this deck are in the precon, apart from a couple of the more expensive ones. So +2, discard 2 cards and draw that many cards so we can get cards into our graveyard to recur later. Then we -2, sacrifice an artifact and return target artifact card from graveyard to battlefield. So it's basically just Duretti. And the -10 we're not going to use, but it's very powerful. If you want to read it, pause it there. And it can be our commander, so that's why it used to be one of my commanders. Feldon Third Path, 3 mana, 2/3. Some gunk. 2 in a red, create a token as a copy of target creature card in your graveyard. Except it's an artifact in addition to its other types. It gains haste, sacrifice within the next end step. This we can just bring back the same cards over and over again. And basically generate a huge value engine with Feldon. It's especially good with Solemn because you pay for, get a land, draw a card every single turn. Mirror Retriever, Junk Diver, and Workshop Assistant all do the same thing. When they die, they get us an artifact card from a graveyard to our hand. Mirror Retriever costs 2 and is a 1/1. Junk Diver's 3 mana because of 1/1 with flying, and Workshop Assistant's 3 mana and it's a 1/2. And these can all be used in a combo again, so I'll get the best 2 out of them and leave them at the side. Scrap Trawler, 3 mana. When it or another artifact card is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, return the target to your hand, target artifact card in your graveyard with less converted mana cost. This, it can work combos, but I haven't found any yet. it's just generally incredibly good value card with sacrificing stuff anyway. We're going to have a lot of low CMC artifacts in our graveyard which we can return. So next up we have our finishers. These are ways we're going to win the game. So a lot of them are big creatures like Bronze Guardian, which is a 5 mana, star 5. It's got double strike, ward 2. Whenever this creature comes target for spell or ability and opponent controls, counter it unless that player controls pays 2. Other artifacts you control have ward 2 themselves, so it's just a protection spell. And its power is equal to the number of artifacts you control. This, we can get it up to 10 power quite easily, and because it's got double strike, if it goes unblocked, that's 20 damage. 7 mana, 4/7, Mere Battlesphere. We integrate 4 colourless Mere tokens. We can sacrifice these Meres for value. And when it attacks, you can tap X Mere you control, and it deals X damage to the player or planeswalker it's attacking. It's +X/+0. This can become a very large threat, an 8/7, and it deals 4 damage directly a lot of the time. Pretty good to recur in the early game when no one's going to have blockers. Triplicate Titan, 9 mana, 9/9 with Flying, Vigilance, and Trample. When it dies, create a 3/3 Golem Artifact creature token, and you do that 3 times, except one has Vigilance, one has Trample, and one has Flying. So it's basically a Wormcoil engine with different abilities. This you can sacrifice over and over again to get a lot of value. Hellkite Tyrant, definitely one of the better cards in the deck. 6 mana, 6/5. Flying Trample, when it deals combat damage to a player, gain control of all artifacts that player controls. And with your upkeep, if you control 20 or more artifacts, you win the game. So this, especially if an opponent's playing an artifact deck, we can easily steal artifacts and win the game next turn. Or just steal people's mana rocks, get extra mana, and direct all our attention to the Hellkite Tyrant rather than some of our combo pieces. Sahidi's Directive, X, triple red, and it's got Improvise, so artifacts you tap whilst casting a spell can pay for 1. For all the top X cards of your library, you may put any number of artifact cards with converse mana cost X or lesser among monsters battlefield, then put all cards revealed this way that weren't put on the battlefield in your graveyard. This basically says oftentimes you win, because you can put 15 or so into the X towards the end of the game, which is pretty easy to do that, because it has Improvise, and we just get loads and loads of artifacts. This deck is very high concentration of artifacts. 5 mana Scrap Mastery. Each player exiles all artifact cards from their graveyard, then sacrifices all artifacts they control, then puts all the exiled cards onto the battlefield. This is basically a Goblin Welder, but for everything. So this gets rid of opponent stuff as well, so we can use it to remove their mana rocks. And we can just generally get loads and loads of value with it. Wake for Past does the same, except you don't have to sacrifice stuff, and it gives everything haste, recur everything from our graveyard. Then Comet Storm. This is what we do with our infinite mana. It's X, 2 red, multi-kicker 1. You may pay an additional red, white 1 any number of times as you cast this spell. Choose any target, then choose another target for each time this spell is kicked, and it does X damage to each of them. There's some other ways you could win, but I put Comet Storm in here just because I had it at the time of recording. Faithless Looting, 1 red, draw 2, discard 2, shape our hand early on in the game, and get cards into our graveyard. Next up we have our removal spells. So first up we have 7 mana, Angel of the Ruins. When it enters, exile 2 target artifacts or enchantments. This we can recur over and over again. Basically say you can't have artifacts or enchantments to our opponents. And it's also a pretty large threat as well. Duplicant, 6 mana. When it enters, exile target non-token creature. Exile, very good, and it's recurable. Dispatch, 1 white, tap target creature. If you control 3 or more artifacts, exile that creature. The majority of the time we're going to have 3 or more artifacts, so this is going to be 1 white exile, so it's better than Path to Exile or Swords to Plowshares in this deck. Excavation Technique, 3 and a white, demonstrate. When you cast a spell, you may copy it. If you do, choose an opponent to also copy it. Players may choose new targets for their copies, and then destroy target non-land permanent. Its controller creates 2 treasure tokens. This is very good, very good at getting down an opponent who's very far ahead, because you can make a deal. Say we're all going to direct our forces, all 3 removal spells to that player, take out 3 things, again 6 treasure tokens. Whatever you're taking out is going to be a lot worse than the 2 treasure tokens. Volcanic Offering, very mean card in the right situation. 5 mana, destroy target non-basic land you don't control, and target non-basic land of opponent's choice you don't control. So That's the lesser used one. However, it deals 7 damage to target creature you don't control and 7 damage to target creature of an opponent's choice you don't control. So this is also another political card where you can take down one opponent. Chaos Warp, 2 and a red. The owner of target opponent shuffles into a library, then reveals the top card of his or her library. If it's a permanent card, he or she puts onto the battlefield. This removes any permanent, and it's instant speed. Also, if you have a generous gift, I don't have one, you could probably replace it with Demonstration Technique. I haven't really tested the power of that card, but it seems okay. If you do play around with Demonstration Technique and you don't find it very good in your meta, then definitely find a generous gift and replace it in there. I don't currently have one, but definitely a good card to put in. Still Hellkite, 6 mana, 5/5, flying, 2 mana. It gets +1/+1 and turn, not particularly relevant. And then X, destroy each non-land permanent with converted mana cost X or less. Cost X, whose controller was dealt common damage by Still Hellkite this turn. Activates ability only once each turn. Before of this, I paid 2 and destroyed about 7 permanents with it. You can also pay 0 and destroy all their tokens. Very flexible card. People don't often want it to hit them in case it gets rid of basically their whole board. Cleansing Nova, 5 mana, destroy all creatures or destroy all artifacts and enchantments. You can do either. Mostly you're going to do destroy all creatures, but in the case where someone's snowballing with Urza, an Enchantress deck, we can cast this and deal with that pretty quickly. Blasphemous Act, 8 and a red. It costs 1 less to cast for each creature on the battlefield. It deals 13 damage for each creature. Often it'll still cast 1 red and it will deal with all of the creatures that don't have Indestructible. Chain Reaction, 4 mana. Deals X damage to each creature, X's number of creatures on the battlefield. Again, very, very powerful card in the right situation. So, those were the board wipes. Next up we have just utility artifacts, which don't serve any other purpose. So first up we have Cathodian, 3 mana. When it dies, add 3 to your mana pool. I'm sure there's combos with this, but I still haven't played enough to find them yet. Just generally good card because we can invest 3 mana one turn, get 3 mana next turn, and there's ways we can play artifacts cheaper in this deck, so we can use those. Sculpting Steel, 3 mana. You may have it enters a copy of any artifact on the battlefield. This is another part of one of these combos, which I'll show you later. We can copy some of our bigger threats and do generally a lot with it. 2 mana. Lol Apprentice, Haste. Lieutenant, begin combat on your turn. If you control your commander, create a 1/1 colour stops an artifact creature token with flying. That token gains haste. This we can use to sacrifice to get mana, do various things with the token. It's just another disposable thing we can do. Decklist Engineer, 2 and a white. Whenever you cast an artifact spell, you may pay 2. If you do, create a 0/0 colourless construct artifact creature token with this creature gets +1/+1 for each artifact you control. This can get very, very large. I've had 5 of these artifact tokens on the deck on this board at the same time. Very large threats, very hard to deal with. And then next up we have Foundry Inspector, 3 mana. Artifact spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. This is another one of our combos. You can put more effects in here if you want to combo off more often. However, that's not really what I was looking for when I built this deck. It was more of a value-based deck that could combo off if you had no other way to win. Very, very good card most of the time in this deck. Battle Mage's Bracers, 2 and a red. A quick creature has haste. Whenever an ability and a quick creature is activated, if it isn't a mana ability, you may pay 1. If you do, copy that ability. You may choose new targets for the copy, and it's got equipped 2. So this gives the creature haste. We can give Hellkite Tyrant haste. We can do a lot of things with it. Also, if you want to get rid of a couple of lands or the combos, you could put you could put Lightning Greaves or Swiftfoot Boots in here to give more haste, because that would be pretty good. I don't have any boots spare at the moment. I've got 2 of each, but they're all being used. Definitely recommend putting those in if you don't want the combos. 1000-Year Elixir, 3 mana. You may activate abilities of creatures you control as though those creatures had haste. 1 untap target creature. This Arcane has an activated ability. There's loads and loads of creatures in here which have activated abilities. With this we can use them again, and we can activate them immediately. Rings of Bright Hearth, again whenever you activate ability. This is another part of an infinite combo. We can copy our commander's ability and various other things like Goblin Welder. Anything to copy up abilities is incredibly powerful. Deflecting Swap. This is the protection spells. 2 in a red. If you control a commander, you may cast a spell without paying its mana cost. You may choose new targets for target spell or ability. This, we can redirect counter spells, removal spells. Basically anything which is going to threaten us, we can point it straight back at our opponents. Commander's Plate, 1 mana. Equipped creature gets +3/+3 and has protection from each colour that's not in your commander's colour identity. Equip commander 3, equip 5. So this gives our commander protection from the 3 most prominent colours in commander: black, blue, and green. So, and it's also just something in sacrifice if we aren't currently using it. Boris Charm, 1 red and 1 white. Instant, deals 4 damage to target player or planeswalker. We can finish off opponents, get rid of planeswalkers. Permanents you control remain indestructible, so you can protect all our permanents from board wipes, damage spells, single target removal, and then target creature gains double strikes in a turn. You can probably win with the double strike in the right situation, however it's not one of the main things. And then finally Darksteel Forge, 9 mana, artifacts you control have indestructible. Very powerful card, because we can recur it quite early and our opponents find it very hard to interact with our stuff. Finally, we have the most boring part of our deck, lands. We've got quite a few non-basic lands in this deck, to be honest. First of them is Buried Ruin. This one is 2 sacrifice it, returns an artifact card from your graveyard to your hand, and it sets for colourless, so you can use this to recur artifacts. Next up is Ancient Den. This is one of our artifact lands. We also have Great Furnace. Both of these are just artifact lands we can get back from our graveyard for 0 with our commander. Needle Spires enters tapped, add red or white, and we can turn into a 2/1 red and white elemental creature token with double strike to end the turn. It's not really used that much, but it's still okay. Battlefield Forge taps for red or white and it deals 1 damage to you, or taps for colourless. Commander's Tower, 1 mana of any colour in your commander's colour identity. Exotic Orchard adds 1 mana of a land an opponent controls could produce. Boris Garrison taps for red and white and bounces land we control to our hand. Temple of Triumph taps for red or white and we can scry 1 when it enters, card selection there. Darksteel Citadel, the final one of our artifact lands, indestructible when it adds a colourless. Sunhome, Fortress of the Legion, and Slayer's Stronghold both give us combat boosts. Slayer's Stronghold can give our creatures haste and pumps them slightly. Sunhome, Fortress of the Legion gives them double strike. And then finally, Phyrexia's Cause, a sacrifice outlet for artifacts. We can sacrifice them 1 at a time and gain a life. And finally, Mirror Landscape is a ramp spell, or ramp land, because it gets 2 basics of the same type. And then finally, we have 14 mountains and 10 plains. Right, let's go on to the combos of the deck. So, the first Awakening combo is Rings of Bright Hearth and Basalt Monolith. This, we tap 3, we get 3 mana, and we also need 2 mana as well. So we pay 2, we use the 3 mana from the Basalt Monolith to untap Basalt Monolith, and then we copy it with Rings of Bright Hearth, so we get to untap it, and in the meantime tap it and untap it again, so we get float 3 mana every time. And we can use 2 of the 3 floating to activate Rings of Bright Hearth next time. So we're always going to net 1 mana every time we do that. And then we can win with Comet Storm once we have infinite mana, point it at all of our opponents and win. The next combo is with Crown Ironworks, Mirror Retriever, Junk Diver, or Workshop Assistant, along with Foundry Inspector, or Joyous Familiar if you want to put that in here, along with Sculpting Steel. This makes our artifact spells cost 1 less to cast, meaning our Mirror Retriever will be free, and our Junk Diver will cost 1 mana. What was the other piece in here? Oh no, that was it. So we sacrifice Mirror Retriever, doesn't really matter what you get back. Then we can sacrifice Junk Diver to bring back Mirror Retriever to our hand. And then we can play Mirror Retriever again, sacrifice it, return Junk Diver. And then as we're doing this, we're netting mana to then sink into Comet Storm again. All of these are infinite mana combos. A lot of them were accidentally in here. All of the cards are good by themselves. If you were to take out any cards, Basalt Monolith would be the first one to take out to replace for one of those haste enablers, as I said before. This deck is often pretty powerful. I've played it a couple of times and it did what it wanted to do. It did generate more value than a Simic deck, which was pretty funny. Its mana curve is very high, but it doesn't really matter because we can eliminate that with our recursion cards. I think that'll be all for today. If you enjoyed, remember to like, and if you want more videos like this, remember to subscribe. I think that'll be all for today. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.